Hello and welcome to Unworthy History. Here on this channel we try to bring you actual history. And today I'm going to bring you some actual history from this book right here. This is a recent book I acquired, The Life of John Wesley Hardin, as told by himself. So it's the autobiography of this famous outlaw who lived in Texas from 1853 to 1895. And so I'm going to read this book, and you can decide for yourself, whether he was a villain or a victim, or someone just living in his own time. I was born in Bonham, Fannin County, Texas, on the 26th of May, 1853. My father, J.G. Hardin, was a Methodist preacher and circuit rider. My mother, Elizabeth Hardin, was a blonde, highly cultured, and charity predominated in her disposition. She made my father a model wife and helpmate. My father continued to travel his circuit as a preacher until 1869, when he moved and located near Moscow in Polk County on account of bad health. In the same year, we moved again, this time to Sumter in Trinity County, where he taught school. He organized and established an academy, to which institution he sent my elder brother, Joe G. Hardin, and myself. In the meantime, my father was studying law, and in 1861 he was admitted to the bar. The war between the states had then broken out, and while my father had voted against secession, yet when his state seceded, he went with his state and immediately organized a company to fight, and if need be, to die for Southern rights. He was elected captain of this company, but he resigned at the solicitation of the best citizens, Captain Ballinger being elected to the command. So my father stayed at home because, as said the foremost men of the community, you can be of more good use at home than off fighting Yankees. Although I was but 9 years old at the time, I had already conceived the idea of running off and going with a cousin to fight Yankees. But my father got on to the little game and put an end to all by giving me a sound thrashing. Still, the principles of the Southern cause loomed up in my mind ever bigger, brighter, and stronger as the months and years rolled on. I had seen Abraham Lincoln burned and shot to pieces in effigy so often that I looked upon him as a very demon incarnate, who was waging a relentless and cruel war on the South to rob her of her most sacred rights. So you can see that justice of the Southern cause was taught to me in my youth, and if I never relinquished these teachings in after years, surely I was but true to my early training. The way you bend a twig, that is the way it will grow, is an old saying, and a true one. So I grew up a rebel. In 1862, my father moved to Livingston in Polk County, where he taught school and practiced law. In 1865, we again moved back to Sumter, my father still teaching and practicing law, my brother and I being regular scholars. Our parents had taught us from our infancy to be honest, truthful, and brave, and we were taught that no brave boy would let another call him a liar with impunity. Consequently, we had lots of battles with other boys at school. I was naturally active and strong and always came out best, though sometimes with a bleeding nose, scratched face, or a black eye. But true to my early training, I would try, and try again. We continued in Sumter at school for some time, and of course, I received the biggest part of my education there. I always tried to excel in my studies and generally stood at the head of my class. Being playful by nature, I was generally first on the playground at recess at noon. Marbles, Raleigh roll, cat, bullpen, and town ball were our principal games, and I was considered by my schoolmates an expert. I knew how to knock the middleman, throw a hot ball, and ply the bat. Of course, we had examinations and school exhibitions, which were creditable to all concerned, but in 1867, an incident occurred which I think proper to relate. We were preparing for an examination when one of my schoolmates and myself had an almost fatal fight. His name was Charles Sloter, and as he wanted to be the boss among the boys, of course I stood in his way. In order to down me, he publicly accused me of writing some doggerel on the wall about one Sal, a girl scholar. It commenced, "I love Sal, and Sal loves mutton," and ended in some reflections upon Sal's personal attractions. I knew that he was the author of the poetry, and when he accused me of writing it, I at once denied it and proved it upon him. He came over to my seat at the schoolroom, struck me, and drew his knife. I stabbed him twice, almost fatally, in the breast and back. A howl at once went up to expel me from school, some even wanting to hang me. The trustees, however, heard the true facts in the case, and instead of expelling me, completely exonerated me, and the courts acquitted me. I may mention here that poor Charlie was long afterwards hung by a mob in an adjoining county. So that's it for this part right here. This was just kind of the first story in John Wesley Hardin's autobiography, where he talks about his upbringing that turned him into a rebel, and then also this incident where he was almost expelled from school for stabbing a classmate and nearly killing him. So we'll continue more on this in a future episode of Unworthy History. If you want to see more episodes like this, then be sure to like and subscribe, and we'll see you next time on Unworthy History.